Okay, so did you get some bacon in the lobby? Everybody got, yeah, okay, yeah. I saw some folks eating that as we were singing. So, that's good. By the way, bacon and a dinosaur movie, that's our way of saying, we hope you have a great day today, dads. And you notice we didn't, play that on Mother's Day. We know the lines not to cross. And listen, we know today is hard for some folks for a lot of reasons. For some of us, it's hard because our dad growing up just didn't make Father's Day an easy day to celebrate. And I'm sorry if that's you. For others of us, we've lost our dad, and that makes today a little bit hard. For the others of us, we've tried to become dads, and it just has not, we've not been able to do that. And so today is difficult, and as Dave prayed a little bit ago, sometimes we look beyond here on earth, and we go straight to our Heavenly Father on days like this. And I'm glad that you can do that. Thanks for being with us on such a hard day for you. But we also recognize that there are dads that we want to celebrate. And just so you know, we here at MCC, we think dads are pretty awesome, and especially those who have made Jesus Lord of their life and are modeling how to live that out for their own kids. And for those of us who do not have our own biological children, that you've chosen to model that for someone else's children, maybe that are growing up in your house, maybe that are growing up in your neighborhood. But we just appreciate that you are showing them what it looks like for a man, a father, a grandpa to follow Jesus. So my name is Mike, and if this is your first Sunday with us, I'm the lead pastor here at MCC. Really appreciate you being here. We have a gift for you at the back table. And listen, if you're following us online, if you're watching this online, thanks for catching us there. And I hope you'll join us in the big room here soon. We are in our Summer at the Movie series. We started this a few weeks ago, and so far the first movie we looked at was The Greatest Showman, and if you were here you may remember that was Graduate Sunday, so we were talking to our graduates about what God's vision, image of success is in life, because it differs from what the world tells us about success. Last week Adam used Incredibles 2 to talk about our mission and our identity in that mission, reclaiming that for God. And today it's Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Comes out this Friday. And how many of us saw the original Jurassic Park in the theater? Hands, please. Jurassic Park, the original film, in the theater. By the way, you know what that means, right? That means you're old. That's exactly what that means. And so, what was so great? And I don't know if you remember this. What was so great, though, about the original movie was, even then, the dinosaurs just looked so real. So I thought it'd be great today to kind of take a quiz about the original with prizes. And so I've asked Adam Leopard to join me down here. And we have another guest who will be, go ahead and come on up here. So here's what we're going to do. We have some prizes, and Adam's going to be spotting. Gosh, can you bring the lights up just a little bit so we can see the balcony? You're going to be spotting the balcony, and I'm spotting the floor. And so the first guy who says the answer, put your hand up if you would, it helps us see, and says the right answer out loud wins a prize. One on the floor, one on the balcony. So here, I'm going to have you, I'll just give you that. Okay, so now you're ready. Okay, so have you got one too? Adam, here you go. Yeah, I know, it's hard to see up there, isn't it? All right, so evidently, here's the first question. It's up on the big screen too, so you can see it. How much did the original T-Rex in the Jurassic? By the way, ladies, if you answer, you do not get a prize. However, a guy near you may hear that and get a prize. So that's good. But you have to answer. You have to put your hand in the answer. So how much did the original T-Rex in Jurassic Park weigh? Was it 2,000 pounds, 7,000 pounds, or 12,000 pounds? 12, what'd you say? Okay, it's 12. Can you take right here on the front row? Yeah, that's easy. Look at that. Did anybody up in the balcony get it? Yeah, well, they need to say something. Did they?
Clear on the rules. Stand up or just shout it out?
Good night. Just shout it out. Did someone shout it? Dave got it? Okay. All right, because we want to throw these too. I know. That's the thing right there. Oh, you know what though? They taped the boxes for the first hour. We didn't do that this hour. So be real careful down here, okay, when he slings that up there. Okay, here's a second question. In the original movie is 127 minutes long. 127 minutes long. How many minutes of the dinosaur footage, of actual dinosaur footage, is in Jurassic Park? 14 minutes, 37 minutes, or 58 minutes? 14? Did you say 14 too, Bruce? Okay, great. All right, here we go. Tell you what. Yeah, you give one to somebody, and I'll throw the other one. All right. Oh, you didn't see the check shirt right there. There you go. All right. Did you get somebody yet, Adam? No. Are you see? Didn't nobody said 14? Okay, yeah, we heard it. Toss it up there, man. I know, this is exciting. This is what makes worship exciting. There it is. Yeah. Whoa, yeah, nice. Oh, by the way, I didn't tell you. In the original movie, the Tyrannosaurus Rex, sometimes it was 12,000, keep in mind, 12,000 pounds animatronic. When it would rain, sometimes it would turn itself on and start moving around the set. Is that the weirdest thing? That would freak me out. Okay, so here's the last question. And we're not going to give you, just have to guess on this one. So we have to really be listening, all right?
You got to stand up and guess. I can't hear who says it first from down here.
So standing up helps you hear better?
It helps me see.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, okay. So name an animal that was used to replicate the dinosaur noises in the original Jurassic Park. Cuckoo-ca-choo. Did someone say cuckoo-ca-choo? What? That's not even. Okay, someone over here said something. What? Bird? An elephant? A turtle. Seriously. So when the dinosaur goes and nothing comes out, right? That's the turtle. Okay, so a lion was one of them. Actually, I didn't read about birds. Someone said bird last hour, so I don't know if that's accurate because I never read that. Did someone up there say one yet? Turtle. No, turtle. Walrus is one of them, yeah. Did someone say dolphin? Okay, yeah, I thought I heard someone. No, I mean, it wasn't close to you, but I didn't hit anybody. That's a plus. So lions, walruses, dolphins. The velociraptor was a mixture of dolphin and walrus. The T-Rex was a mixture of lion and at times a baby elephant. I think that's really cool. So, oh, wait a minute. Was there somebody else down here on the floor? Who else said something down here? You said elephant. Do you already have a box of balls? No. Can you take those to Bob, please, in the middle? Can you raise your hand there, Bob?
At this point, we're just giving out golf.
Yeah, we are just throwing them out there. Here you go. Somebody else said it back here. Back in the back. What in the world? You too? Okay. All right. It's awesome. And somebody got a loose one. Okay. So thank you for coming. We're going to close now with, no, I'm just teasing. So big hand for our dinosaur. Yeah. And for Adam, we're going to be having him take a hearing test later this week. Thank you, Adam. Yeah. So, by the way, the gifts are just reminders to the golf outing, the missions golf outing on the 30th of this month. So I got my foursome. Oh, no, is she stuck? The dinosaur stuck. Thank you. Hey, it could have got ugly in here. I'm telling you, that thing was stuck in here. Just so you know, if you have not got your foursome in yet for the golf outing, not too late. I got mine in this past week, so I hope to see you out there on the course. Now, to get back to what we're talking about today, because you all kind of lost control totally there. But the storyline for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is that after the demise of Jurassic World theme park, the dinosaurs roam free for 3 years. And they're going to be left there until a volcano, an impending volcanic eruption, threatens their existence. So a dinosaur rescue is organized to bring the creatures to sanctuary in America. I cannot see one problem with that plan. I mean, what could possibly go wrong, you know? And the story uses, so just so you know, Jurassic Kingdom, Jurassic World, those movies all employ this, what is called the monster in the house. And the idea is that whether it's dinosaurs or aliens or a guy in a white hockey mask, that you're trapped somewhere with something that is trying to kill you. And a lot of us love those kind of movies, by the way. Some of us go to those movies just so we can, scream. Yeah, don't do that in here, okay? But do we have screamers? You can narc someone else out if you want to. That's okay. So psychologists might say that we're drawn to these types of monster movies because we relate to them on many levels. Deep down, we all know what it's like to have a monster in the house, a monster in our life, to have things going on in our lives, impulses and issues that if we allow them to run free, they cause all kinds of destruction. They wreak all kinds of havoc in our lives. And yet, we keep them. And the longer you do, the more it becomes part of who you are. And the longer you keep these things in your life that we're going to talk about this morning, the more they can damage your soul. And so we need to identify them. Here's the deal. They're powerful forces in our past that are best left in our past. So we're going to see a few of them, not all of them, but we're going to see a few of them and what we can do to keep our past in our past. But here's kind of the underlying thought, and I think it's in your notes. My past can work its way into my present and cause problems for my future. I just want to make sure you know that. There are things that are in your past that are meant to be kept back there because they can cause problems today, and they will certainly cause problems in your future. And I'm assuming you have found that to be true. So I'm going to show you 3 dinosaurs that people allow themselves to be trapped in the house or wherever with, and if you do this, you are allowing what should have been in your past, you're allowing it into your present, and it will trash your future. So we're not going to be sitting in one passage today, so if you have your YouVersion app on your phone, I hope you have that ready to go because all the verses are printed there. You'll see them on the screen. They're referenced on your handout. So let's check this out. Here's the first one. The first monster, the first dinosaur you do not want running around that should be kept in your past are grudges. If you leave this dinosaur running loose in your heart, it will cause problems. And the reason, listen, look at the next blank, because grudges means, here's all this means. So it means someone has done something to me. That's all it means. When you have a grudge, it means that someone has, or at least you've perceived that someone has done something to you. So here's what I wonder. Who is it from your past that you're holding a grudge against? Former boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, former employer, a parent, a brother, sister, a teacher who hurt you when you were in school. Many adults, are still fighting your parents subconsciously on this. And that's what makes days like today so difficult, because there are things that have happened in your past. You would say about your bringing up your parents, you would say, I was unloved, I was ignored, I was abused verbally, I was abused physically, I was intimidated, I was manipulated. And you felt all of that growing up in your childhood. And so when you grew up and were able to, you moved away. The problem is you brought all that with you. You didn't leave it where it should have been left. And for some of us, the person in our past has actually died. So now what do? You're still holding on to this hurt. As a matter of fact, when Paul would talk to the early church in Ephesus, he wrote this: get rid of all bitterness. Now, he talks about other things, but look, get rid of your bitterness. Be kind and compassionate. Forgive each other, just as in Christ God has forgiven us. Get rid of all bitterness. Do not hang on to that resentment. And there are a couple of reasons, right? There are a couple of reasons why that grudges allow what should be left in the past to be kept there, because it'll damage your life today. And here's the first one. These aren't in your notes. I just want you to see them. Grudges tie you to the past, but they don't change it. Listen, you can be resentful toward people who have hurt you in the past, but it doesn't change what happened. Your resentment does not change. No matter how much you resent it, it never resolves the problem. As a matter of fact, it can make the problem worse. So that's why it's a problem. Here's the second. Grudges allow the past to control you. When you say to somebody, you make me so mad. Have you ever said that to anybody? You make me so mad. You know what you're allowing? You're allowing that person to have control of you. You have given them control. What they did or who they are now control you. A friend of mine used to say to me, nobody can make you mad without your permission. You ever heard that? I was usually angry when he said that. It really ticked me off when he would say that. But all of us have been hurt in the past. But some of us in the room are continuing. Listen, you are continuing to allow someone from your past to hurt your present. And and they're not even around anymore. Your past is your past. As a matter of fact, in the book of Job in the Old Testament, it says you are only hurting yourself with your anger. Look at the wisdom he's got. And to make matters worse, since that person isn't around anymore, now you point that anger at somebody else around you, usually your spouse or your children, and they get the vent of what you mean to point towards someone else. So the question, again, is who are you still holding a grudge against? Former teammate? Former coach? Former pastor? Former friend? Former or current spouse? You know, some of us hold on to every little hurt in our marriages, and you hide it, and you kind of keep a stockpile so that the next time there's an argument, you can pull out the ammunition from things that happened in the past that we're supposed to be able to let go of. The great love chapter in the Bible, 1 Corinthians 13, New Testament, Paul writing to the church in Corinth, he says, love keeps no record of wrongs. You don't keep score. You don't count. You give up your grudges. All right, here's the second dinosaur. I want to make sure you get this. The second dinosaur that can cause havoc, wreak havoc in our life is grief. This is some of the hard stuff in life that's happened. Sorrow is a normal part of life. Everyone experiences it, and it hurts. And grieving, listen, grieving is a natural part of life. Please don't hear anything different. There's nothing wrong with mourning, because when we grieve something, what it really means is that something hard has happened to me. I'm grieving. I just spoke with someone this morning as they were coming in who said that they had just lost their job. There's going to be some grieving that goes along with that, and that's normal. Those who study grief, its process and how people cope with it, tell us that it is the number one area of life that we want to avoid. But if we can't avoid it, and we try at all costs to avoid it, but if we have to experience it, we try to shortcut the process. And here's the thing, if you don't deal with it in a healthy way, and it looks different for all of us, right? We all deal with it in a healthy way in different ways. But if we don't deal with it in a healthy way, we hold on to it. We store it away in our lives. And I wonder if there isn't someone in the room this morning who isn't holding on to something that you've been grieving, or someone that you've been grieving and you've never let go of it. Someone once told me, they said these words, they're holding on to memories that are too painful to look at, but they don't want to part with. And to be real clear, listen, we grieve all kinds of things. We grieve the loss of a job. We grieve the loss of money. When you move and you leave friends behind, you grieve that. When a friend moves away from you, you grieve that. Changing teachers or schools, an illness, a loss of youth, maybe a time of retirement. We grieve what we had in our career. And I know some of those are going to sound silly to some of us. And you're going, really? People grieve that? They do. Those are real things that we grieve the loss of. And by the way, our job is not to look into someone else's life and judge what they're grieving. Our job is to reach into their lives and help them heal from what they're grieving, to work through it. Jesus said this, God blesses those people who grieve because they will find comfort. It's okay to grieve. It's okay to mourn. As a matter of fact, when Paul talks about it, again in the early church, what he says is that we grieve with those who, we laugh with those who laugh, and we mourn with those who mourn. And you probably know this, but grieving is a process. It doesn't happen in a day, doesn't happen in a week. In some cases, it takes years. But there are a couple of ways, if I'm not careful, that we allow this grief that is a normal, natural part of life to run roughshod over my present day. And one of those ways is when we do that, is in grief, people will resign from life. And they say things like, I will never be happy again. I've lost everything. I can't even possibly go forward from here. And I hope you can hear me say this. You may have lost a lot. A lot. Please don't hear me minimizing that. I'm not saying you haven't lost a lot. What I am saying is you haven't lost everything, because you are still here. Do not resign from life. Here's the second reason. Sometimes in grief, people build a wall around themselves, and it causes damage. They build a protective wall because they don't want to experience that pain anymore. Or they build a wall around them so that whatever hurt them before, that someone can't get through that. They don't want to lose anyone else, and so they wall themselves in. And I will tell you, this is what I'm guilty of. This is what I do. You know, I've been asked, how do you do funerals for people that you've had this relationship with? Or when I've done funerals for children, how do you do funerals for children? And I'll tell you, it took me a while to figure it out because I didn't know what I was doing. But what I do is I go to this place where I push my emotions aside. and I stay in that place to be able to do the service. I just disengage from my emotions. And I would suggest that maybe some of us do that as well. That's how we cope with this. We push our emotions aside because we think if we can just get through the moment, we'll be okay. And part of the problem with that is we forget to engage our emotions when we walk back into the world with everyone else. And that causes problems. Pain's a part of life. We've all experienced hurts and heartaches. Don't allow your pain to make you a prisoner of that pain. So how do I let go of that? The first thing that we need to do is, and this isn't in your notes, so if this is you, you need to write this down, accept what can't be changed. And I don't mean this to sound harsh, but what has happened has happened. Grieving it will not change it. Grieving it helps you heal because you accept it for your own sake. Please grieve it. Here's the second thing. Make sure you go to God with this. So in Proverbs 18, when we read, the Lord is a mighty tower where his people can run for safety, what that means is God is the place where you will find comfort and healing, where that happens. And he uses his word, and he uses worship, and he uses his people, and he even uses serving other people. And this may sound strange to you, this idea of serving other people, helping you heal. But sometimes what happens is God takes this thing where you've had this incredible hurt in your life, and you find healing in the process. And then he takes what you have learned because someone else deals with that as well, and he uses you and what you've learned to help that person heal from a similar pain. Here's the third thing. Focus on what's left, not what's lost. Self-pity is much more damaging to your life than any tragedy you'll ever face because it perpetuates the pain that you've been experiencing long after the pain should have become manageable. And at some point, it should become manageable. Sometimes what we do is we relive what has happened, and we wonder if we'd made different decisions, if something would be different about. So we relive what we've lost in different scenarios, and we need to be careful of that. We'll talk about that in a minute. There's one more dinosaur, and it's the dinosaur of guilt. Like the first two, by the way, they're all three good things. All three things should be found in our life in the appropriate measure. When a bunch of kids were asked to explain how they understood what a guilty conscience was like, a 6-year-old girl said, "A guilty conscience is a pot inside of you that burns if you're not good." 6 years old. 6 years old, she said that. A 7-year-old boy said, "A guilty conscience is feeling bad when you kick girls or little dogs." I think what they're trying to communicate is that there's something inside of us that says, I think I just crossed a line there, right? There's something that says that wasn't right. It didn't even feel right. Not only was it not right, it doesn't even feel right. And guilt from that perspective, by the way, that can be a good thing for us because it can point you, right? If it can point you toward, if you don't feel this little twinge of that was wrong, your heart is heading to the wrong place, this cold, dark, callous place. It's dangerous, and guilt can lead us to honesty. Guilt can lead us to confession. Guilt can lead us to forgiveness in our lives. Guilt can lead us to a better decision the next time around. But unresolved guilt, the kind of guilt that gets suppressed and stuffed down and hidden, is a very destructive thing. And that's why part of your past can do so much damage, which means, by the way, when you feel guilt, all it means is I've done something to someone else. That's what something inside of you is saying. I've done something to someone else and it's hurt them. Or I was supposed to do something and I didn't, and that is what hurt them. In his book, Guilt, Where Psychology and Religion Meet, Dr. David Belgum estimates that 75% of the people hospitalized with physical illnesses actually have sickness rooted in emotional problems. And he says their physical symptoms and breakdowns are, for many, their involuntary confessions of guilt. And all he's saying is what we see reflected in Scripture. We watch King David go through this because he says, when I refused to confess my sins, I was weak and miserable, and I groaned all day long. Day and night, your hand. So he's talking to God. Day and night, God, your hand of discipline was heavy on me. My strength evaporated like water in the summer heat. And you say things like, if only I'd told my boss the truth, I wouldn't have been fired. Or if I would have just said no the first time I was offered drugs or alcohol. If I just said no, then my life would have turned out a whole lot differently. If I just hadn't run the credit card up. I wouldn't be in so much debt I don't even know how to get out of it. If only I hadn't cheated on my spouse. If only I had chosen adoption over abortion, things would be different. Or we regret things we should have done but didn't. If only I'd spent more time with my son or daughter when they were younger. If only I'd spent more time with my mom or dad before they died. If only I'd swallowed my pride and apologized and not let this small thing become this huge thing with my friend. If only I'd taken better care of my health when I was younger, when I had those options. Now I'm paying all the prices. And sometimes what happens, if guilt is left to hang around a little bit too long, it can morph into something else. The dinosaur gets bigger and guilt morphs into shame. And I'm assuming you know what shame is. I'm assuming you've experienced a little bit of it, because I know I have. Guilt is different than shame. Guilt attacks the behavior. Shame goes after your self-worth. Author Lewis Smedes takes the description one step further. He says the difference between guilt and shame is very clear in theory. We feel guilty for what we do. We feel shame for what we are. In his book, Facing Shame, Merle Folsom says, a pervasive sense of shame is the ongoing premise that one is fundamentally bad, inadequate, defective, unworthy, or not fully valid as a human being. You have to get rid of shame and guilt. And author Lee Strobel, when he talks about this, he mentions two ways to do that. The first is this: write down exactly what it is that you regret. Put it on a piece of paper. He said you'll be absolutely amazed how quickly you can cut through the overgeneralization, the catastrophizing, the emotionalism when you force yourself to write it down. This is what I regret. And then you write down what it is that you regret. One sentence that summarizes it. He says you will be amazed at how that gives perspective to it. Here's the second thing that he says: talk this over with a godly individual. A godly individual, not just anyone, but someone who's following Jesus. Sit down with people who are following Jesus, who love you and you love them, and you look them in the eye and you say, I messed up again. And they will say to you, yes, you have. You have messed up. You did something that you should not have done, but you are not a worthless person. And so you cannot carry that. You may have failed, but that doesn't make you a failure. You have not erased the image that God has sketched on your soul. You are still the image bearer of God in this. We still love you. God still loves you. And you begin to get a different perspective, and they help you do the right thing, to make right what you did that was wrong, and they encourage you and they pray for you. And so the question becomes, in these three things, these dinosaurs, and there's more. Listen, there's more. But of these three, if you're struggling with any of those today, if you've been struggling with them, what is your next step in your faith journey? When you talk about walking with Jesus and him coming alongside you and helping you live life, listen, our faith in Christ is not just about heaven one day. It is about how Jesus interacts with our lives today and the difference he makes in how we live our lives and the decisions we make and how we think and the way we treat other people. So what is your next step when it comes to these three dinosaurs? Something from your past that should be left there. How do we do that? And as I get ready to share these, if you're one of the guys who's helping us with communion this morning, if you'd go ahead and make your way to the back, we'll have that team move to the back of the room now. And if you would, on your notes, here's what you do. The first thing is you figure out what the dinosaur is. Identify it. Because you cannot, listen, you cannot allow that to be some unidentified that you never put your finger on. AA says that we are always as sick as our secrets. The Bible also has a saying. The Bible says make allowance for each other's faults because we all have them. We all blow it from time to time. We all have sin in our lives. We all have faults. And so what we need to do, and for some of us, it's how we've dealt with the past and how we're allowing it to destroy our future. And we need to work on that. Here's the second thing you need to do. Kick the dinosaur out. You get to decide that. You can't let them live in your life anymore. They can't be in the present anymore. The more it becomes part of your present, and the longer it sticks around, the more it becomes part of you. And as I said before, it does this number on your soul, makes it more difficult to heal from this. And here's the last one. You let God create the new you. you can't create the new you. You can listen to self-help tapes,